Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're so excited to be here today talking to you about the value of enterprise partnerships and why they need to go beyond just the technical. We're going to give it just a few minutes to allow people some time to sign on. We are streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter today. So we're going to give it just 1 minute while you have a second to look at this beautiful slide, as well as get comfortable, get a drink of water, maybe some coffee, depending what time it is for you. And while I dismiss notifications from my screen share. So that's fun for everyone. We welcome you as well to add comments to the chat at any point. We will be taking questions live as we go, as well as at a dedicated Q&A at the end. We can see your comments, and I'd love to bring some of those to our screen as we continue the conversation. So welcome. Please get comfortable, sit back, make yourself at home. You might even be home already. That you make yourselves at home with us. Well, we also have some water. So it's really good to see people joining in. It's great to see you here. Thank you so much for joining. And, we're live, and it's wonderful to see that this is going on today. And as a reminder, comments are open at any point on any of the platforms. So comment on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you are. And we'd love this to be a conversation. And with that, Cindy, let's get started.
Yes, let's do that, Sarah.
So welcome, everybody. Today, we are here to talk to you about enterprise partnerships and why there's so much more to the alignment in these relationships than just the technical. My name is Sarah Goehrke. I am the Senior Director of Strategic Communications and Ecosystems at Nexa3D. And one of the reasons I wanted to join this team, which I've been a part of for 7 months today, is to work with our amazing partners, including Henkel Loctite. So for that, I'd like to welcome Cindy. Can you give yourself a quick introduction, please?
Yes, sure, Sarah. First of all, congratulations on the 7-month milestone. Wow, time flies. Um, for me, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Sarah. I'm Cindy Deekitwong. I'm a global head of marketing, customer experience, customer intelligence for Loctite 3D printing in Henkel additive technology. I'm so grateful to be here. Exciting.
Amazing. So Nexa3D and Henkel Loctite have had a relationship for some time now, and I'd love to, see a little bit of what that looks like, Cindy. You've been part of this partnership longer than I have, so why don't you go through a little bit of what it looks like?
Yes, definitely. And when I look at this journey, it's such a beautiful, fantastic, and you can see the journey is not about up, right? We have up time, down time, challenging time. But the relationship Nexa and Henkel Loctite, we start in April 2020, not so long ago. And you can see throughout the journey until now, all the product like the ABS 3843, we also have some elastomeric X-Flex 475, tremendous amount of product that we work together with Nexa. And we know that with Nexa 3D, the partnership come and starts strengthening because we have a common goal. We leverage each other's strength, right? From the material, photopolymer technology, including some hardware, software, and also some technology that Nexa bring on the table. We actually bring a proof point in September 2021, working with the Wemed, the scope stethoscope for the healthcare application. That for me is a huge proof point where when we have a right partner, we drive into the same goal, and that journey brings some evidence or proof point of the success. And that Wemed case is actually not just a success for the prototyping. It represents 100,000 parts that it's also show us that we can really drive this to production at scale. And last year in November, that's when we signed a development agreement to strengthen even further so that we can customize some material for Nexa system, and together we can go fast and go far, Sarah.
Exactly. And it's, obviously we have to start kind of at that foundational level. Nexa 3D is a company that makes 3D printers, which is a very simple way of saying what we do. We create ultra fast 3D printers ready for production in the polymer sphere. And when you're working with polymers, materials matter. I think we all can agree on that. When you're making something, what you're making it with really impacts the end result. So when you have hardware, you need the right materials. And that is why Nexa 3D didn't want to reinvent the wheel, didn't want to say, hey, we're also a materials provider. You know what? Let's work with the best. Let's work with an entity, a partner that knows what they're doing. Let's work with a trusted name. Let's work with a trusted brand that has trusted materials that we can validate on our printers. And so we turn to Henkel, because who else are you going to turn to? We do have several materials partners. Let's be very clear about that, just as Henkel works with several hardware suppliers. You're very active in additive manufacturing, while additive manufacturing is all we do. So I think we both understand that who we work with is critical. When it comes to success, you need to know that the things that you're doing will do what you want them to do. So we needed to validate materials on our printers. And at the time this partnership launched, we had the NXC400, our flagship industrial resin system, the NXD200, our dental system, and those were our two primary systems on the market at the time that this partnership formed. We've since introduced the NXE200, which is an industrial system with a little bit of a smaller build plate that just gets you into industrial capabilities at a more accessible price point. And we've gone desktop with the Zip 3D printer. And we have Loctite materials on all of those, because who we work with, it matters. And so, as Cindy mentioned, one of the things that we teamed up to do isn't just validating some of their materials on some of our systems. It's really making sure that we make happen what people need to happen. And so, what Cindy pointed to, oh, good, we can see my mouse. So, in November, this exclusive material development agreement came into play with one of the other aspects that she talked about. So I'd like to showcase a little bit of what that looks like. When you have a joint materials agreement in place, what that means is that materials are developed for a specific reason, to work on one platform, to work with one application, to get exactly the results that are needed into place. And as we talk about the growth of 3D printing, especially on an industrial level, especially on a scalable level, we look to those end uses as being so critical to success. So one of the companies that we worked with that's been an incredible, impactful business is Wemed out of France. So we worked with our reseller Hava, as well as a production company called Third, that connected Nexa 3D technology with this startup in France called Wemed. And they realized they needed something really specific. I think, as we all know, we've been living in a strange world for the last 2+ years as the world has been enveloped by a pandemic. It's been terrible. It's been difficult. It's been hard. As somebody recently coming over the COVID hump myself, I don't recommend it. It's been a very difficult time to get what you need, to get the care you need, and get it in the time that you need it. So what Wemed wanted to do was bring this Zoom life that we've all been living to healthcare. So we're talking about telemedicine. They developed this incredible stethoscope where you can listen to your own heart, plug it into your phone, and have your medical care provider be able to access your results immediately. But there's so much that goes into it. It's not just a little stethoscope you plug in, it's something that needs to listen to your heart, to your lungs, to yourself, to your body, and transmit real results. And so the design for this is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's based on cochlear anatomy. And as we all know, biomimicry is one of the huge values of additive manufacturing today. You can create these complex geometries based on nature. And so what Wemed did was exactly that. They developed a biomimetic design based on human cochlear anatomy, that's inner ear, to create a device that could listen precisely. But to do it precisely, you need the right materials to make it happen. So we turned to our partner, Loctite, to create the right materials to develop and validate a solution. And as you can see on this slide, that timeline was fast.
It's amazing. Yeah. So let me add, on that specific one, and you can see I could not stop smiling because we know behind the scene this is a result. But from the Loctite Henkel behind the scene, we also have ability to customize material using Albert software platform we have. And that's agility, that's speed. That's why I could not stop smiling. You see, by 30 days, and the amount of data, Sarah, that we created, of 4,077 data points from all the testing, workflow validation that we work together. I mean, this is a stunning case where, yes, the success is there, but that exactly what we're talking about when it's come to collaboration, partnership, right application, and drive toward to that so-called production at scale. That's why this case is a very stunning case for me, sitting behind the scene.
Absolutely. It's been amazing to watch it come to fruition. And, as discussed, I've been part of the Nexa3D team for 7 months now. So this was just before my time, but it's been incredible to see it progress and come to life over the last few months. And you know what? The industry is taking notice. This design, the scope, this product is currently up for several huge awards in our industry. It's a finalist in the 3D Pioneers Challenge, which is incredible. It's a finalist in the TCT Awards. People are really taking notice of what we're doing together. And so, Cindy, I'd like to, step away from our slides a little bit, though,
Sure.
because what we're talking about, it goes beyond slides. It goes beyond the technology. And I think the big question for us here is why do Nexa 3D and Henkel work so well together? Obviously, your materials work beautifully on our printers, and we wouldn't get anywhere without that. Let's be very clear, without making sure that we could validate these materials and produce results. What's the point? There would be no partnership, there would be no progress. But that's not what makes us such a strong partner, I feel. As I mentioned, one of my personal motivations for joining this team was to work specifically with you, Cindy, and with your team. It's been such a pleasure to work with everyone at Henkel and learn more about the Loctite ethos from the inside. So, what would you say are some of the key points that really brought our teams together and keep bringing us together?
Yeah. That's a very good topic to talk about, right? What make partnership work? What does that mean? Actually, it start from me. It start from you. It start from us. This is a foundation that start for everything. How do we feel connected? How do we really share beyond just technology, product, hardware, and industry? It's about people. It's about culture. It's about value, and it's also start from the top. Look at Avi, how he really used his leadership, his value to bring in so many elements around the team culture, inclusive diversity, sustainability is go beyond Sarah. And that make us very special and relationship become unique because we know I'm looking forward to work with you. Looking forward to work with the team because that collaboration go beyond just what's on the paper, right? So it requires so many things that drive things forward. And I pick up that part already. We both share common interest in women in 3D printing. We really share and be a big advocate when it's come to diversity, inclusion. And that's for me is a big driver to go on the partnership, to go to the collaboration. How does partnership work? Not just because of the project, right? It's go in the sustainable way where we have that outlook long term because we share that common goals and common values. So that's
So
my starting point here.
I think that's such an important starting point. It really brings us to, the heart of what we do together. To be successful partners, to create products like the Wemed scope, we
Mm-hmm.
need to have that technical alignment. But to be strong partners, to make an impact not just on one project, one product, but on our industry, and ideally to make our world a stronger place, we need to align on so much more than that. And I think you mentioned a couple of really key points where both of our companies are deeply and demonstrably committed. So the first of those, I would say, is sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
The world is a mess. Can we just say that? We're in a little bit of an informal form here, so I think we can just say the world is a mess. Um, as a millennial, I inherited and am providing to my son a world that is a little bit on fire. And there's no reason to dance around it, right? We've seen the impact of what traditional manufacturing has done. We've seen what has happened through previous industrial revolutions. We've seen pollution. We've seen a lack of recycling, a lack of reusability. We've seen the birth and huge growth of that plastic island in the ocean. It's just waste. And it's a horrible thing to see. It's not just depressing, it's dangerous to all of us. So, focusing on a world that could be better is a really tangible thing, I think. And one aspect that we talk about a lot at Nexa3D, in fact, Avi and I spoke about it in our last live stream, is going beyond greenwashing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so easy to assume that additive manufacturing is just inherently greener. And when we say greener, we mean, more sustainable, more eco-friendly. And certainly additive manufacturing inherently has several advantages. There is less material waste because when you build a part up, you aren't taking material off it. So there just is less waste than traditional milling where you start with a big block of material
Mm-hmm.
and shape away to get what you need. So, when you look at that kind of thing and these impacts, there is an inherent greenness to additive manufacturing, but it's still not great. We can be honest about that too, right? It's not great. So there's a lot of greenwashing in our industry, and greenwashing as a term just means feel good, look good, marketing exercise. We're 3D printing, so we're not wasteful, and that's not enough. That's not the full story. When we're talking about failing faster, that can also mean failing more. So
Mm-hmm.
creating more prototypes means that there's more that's destined for the landfill, more that's destined for that plastic island in the ocean. So what do you do with that, right? We have to focus together on what it means to actually reduce material waste.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's through reclaiming, through washing. Obviously, Nexa3D, our technologies are resin based, so there's a washing and curing after part production. So we need to look at reclaiming some of that, which is why we introduced the X Clean material. It's just more environmentally sound, more reclaimable than IPA. And so it's little things like that, just questioning the expectation. It's expected that you'll use IPA to wash, right? But what if you step back and say, what if that's not what we use? What if we can reclaim our washing solution? What if we work with materials providers who have their own deep-seated initiatives focused on sustainability. And Cindy, I know that Henkel has done a significant amount to focus on carbon footprint, on making the world a better place. Would you share a little bit about what that looks like with your team?
Sure. Firstly, when it's come to sustainability, for me, that's why it's a part that I'm so proud working for Henkel, because sustainability is embedded to our DNA, especially in Henkel Additive. We actually have a three strategic pillar around the sustainability. Let me step back and share that quickly. The first one is around CO2 energy saving, right? So this is, reducing the CO2 footprint in production, logistic, saving the CO2 emission in the use phases, right? The second one on the circular economy, we have a lot of collaboration, on the bio-based, the recycling, CO2-based raw material, using sustainable packaging, reducing waste in production, recycling, compatibility, debonding. So it's a bigger picture, including the biodegradable products. And the last key initiative for us is about health and safety to enhance the safety in the product application and in the end use. So that's a bigger picture. One of the things that I'm very proud in 2021, we actually achieved 50% less CO2 emission by a ton of the product overall. And again, when it's come to sustainability, it's a journey. It's a journey that every small single step counts. One thing about sustainability is don't take any action that is no option. There's no option for not doing anything. We have to do things that we can do small, big, but the vision, ambition is there. That's why for us in Henkel, the foundation, the goal on the 2020, we want to become the company that have a climate positive. It's huge initiative, but we know together we can get there. And that's why when we connected back to our partner like Nexa3D, this is a thing where we don't need to start over when we talk to you. We already share that common goal. We already share some concern. We share the purpose. And that's for us, this is something that embrace the topic by itself. Just have a partner that see the same thing, driving the same initiative toward to the future goal.
Absolutely. I think, that we can't say enough how important it is.
Mhm.
I think we really can't talk enough about how vital it is to really focus on these things, and to see Henkel investing here so significantly and paying attention. That's why we want to work with you. It is, and from our aspect at Nexa3D, our perspective is that the time is now. It's
Mhm.
already too late in a lot of ways. The best time to start is yesterday. The best time to start is decades ago. But the best time to start is yesterday. So the next best time you can start investing in a sustainable future is today. So at Nexa3D, we recently launched a partnership with Forest Nation. We're planting the Nexa3D forest in Tanzania. And to kick it off, we planted 10 trees for every Nexer on our team. And since we've just grown and hit a growth milestone, that means our forest is being planted with 1,070 trees so far. Because we're a small team, we're a startup, and now we have 107 people on our team, which actually is outdated. We need to plant a few more trees. But we chose to partner with Forest Nation for this because they're planting in an area that was subject to significant deforestation. And 80 to 90% of the people employed and offered jobs and work through this are women,
Mhm.
who we can all see as well have been hit the most by a lack of opportunity in so many areas. And so these women in Tanzania are already having, dozens of hours of employment through planting our initial 1,000 trees, 1,070, which does have a notable carbon footprint in terms of adding oxygen to the air, bringing CO2 out, and starting to do that. We'll also be planting trees for every 3D printer that we sell going forward. We just launched our Zip desktop 3D printer. For every one sold, we'll be planting 10 trees in this forest.
Mhm.
For every industrial 3D printer, we're planting 20 trees in the forest. We're committing outright to over 100,000 trees. We just know that's going to be happening in this first year with our forest. And so initiatives like that, it's not a huge thing. It's not going to make a world of difference, but to the people planting them, to the people harvesting the fruit from these trees, to the
Mm-hmm.
people whose, direct ecosystem and environment is already going to be impacted by having a forest, a physical forest, these beautiful blooming trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's something. And starting somewhere is huge. We're calculating more fine details on our own carbon footprint throughout the company. And understanding those numbers means that you understand what it takes to change the needle, to move the needle. And it's not just in sustainability, right, Cindy? That's
Mm-hmm.
not nearly the only aspect other than the technical where we see alignment. So, as you had mentioned, you and I are both very deeply involved with women in 3D printing. I've been on the board of directors there since 2018, and last year I spearheaded the creation of our diversity, equity, and inclusion programming. And Cindy, it has been such a pleasure to have you so deeply involved with women in 3D printing and all that this nonprofit does. Because obviously, the initial founding goal was gender parity. Our industry is at a unique place at this intersection between traditional manufacturing and high tech, which are two very traditionally male dominated industries. So you can imagine
Mm-hmm.
what that intersection looks like for us. And the latest statistics show a maximum of about 15% women in additive manufacturing on the global scale. And that's not enough. And, look at us. We've both managed to make our ways forward in this industry, which I think shows that there's huge room for women to be taking the lead here. But it's not just women. It's easy to get caught up in one aspect of diversity. By some counts, there are 47 inherent traits of diversity, which go from gender identity to ethnic or racial background to cultural upbringing, religion, education level, neurodivergence, you name it. There are so many different aspects that make me me, that make you you.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us are the same. Look at me. I glow in the dark. I'm very white. I know this. I'm very, very white. Um, Cindy, I think it's safe to say you're not.
Yeah, and that's why make us so special and unique, right? I think that's that's inclusive, Sarah, that inclusive culture, that walking the talk when it's come to diversity. We both embrace it beyond just a poster, beyond just a checklist, right? We bring it to life. We talk about it. We coach people in our team. We talk about people in our industry. We also recruit the male sponsorship. We need ambassador beyond just a female that drive the topic forward. So that's why for me this is a part where it's a journey, it's a building mindset. It's not just about we fixing something. This is a future, this is such a game changing for the industry, where if we embrace diversity, and like you say, it's not just about gender, it can come through anything: culture, ethnicity, race, gender identity, generations, ages. It can be anything, but we need to start embracing it and avoid or get away from talking about why. This is a time we need to act. We don't need to justify about why it's so important. We all embrace it to our heart. And that's why I'm so appreciate the platform like Women in 3D Printing that really strengthen this topic and keep walking that talk. We all talking about this 2 3 year 4 years now, and it's always such a grateful to see that journey go more and more. People come in, start buying the topic, and come join us in this journey. So that's what's a grateful experience on the Woman in 3D Printing.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that we all share our stories. And, we've got about 15 minutes left in our session today, but anyone here, I talk to this woman, talk to Cindy. She's incredible. Please learn her personal story. It is inspiring. Everything that she's been through and has built and has learned and taught. Cindy, I wish I had had a mentor like you when I was a little bit younger. Now I'm glad I have a friend like you, but I know that you do also mentor within your own team. And that's so powerful. And I think that's something we need to talk about, lifting one another up, offering mentorship opportunities, and helping this industry not look like one thing, not think one way. When we're talking about things like design for additive manufacturing, we we know that there's a need to inherently think differently. You can't just design the same thing and expect to 3D print it and have it perform better. That's not optimized for the platform you're using. You have to think differently. You have to step back and say, oh, well, now that I don't have to print, now that I can print this in one part with internal channels, I don't have to make 5 separate parts and assemble them and they have these weak spots where they're welded together or this or that. You have to conceive of it differently. And so what about when we conceive of the workforce differently? When we all bring our own backgrounds to light, when we all bring our own languages, both actual languages and, personal ones. My degrees are in theater and English. There is room for all of us in this industry. You don't have to be an engineer, although I am in awe every day of what the engineers are doing. So it's incredible to see that. And, we do have a really great question that's coming up right now that I'd like to bring on the screen from Marion. So we're seeing, a comment come in about companies which are familiar with developing everything on their own can sometimes struggle with partnership. So when we look at recommendations for those, as we've talked about, Nexa3D is a startup. We just crossed 100 people. It's a company that is used to creating things on their own. But I think the important thing here is really to recognize what you need to do on your own, when to rely on your expertise, and when to partner. There is a thing that we say a lot of the time about we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And let's look at what that means. For Nexa3D, it made sense to partner with Loctite Materials because you've already put the work in. You've already done that heavy lifting. You already created materials that work and have a name that people trust. So, Cindy, what would you say about the struggle, though, of developing partnerships?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Thank you, Marian, for that. When it's come to partnership, the struggling the most of the time that I see is that do we understand what value we bring on the table? The partnership come in when you understand that value chain of the industry of your technology and what value do you add it into your partner? Do we have a strategic fit? Do we share common goals? Do we share a common direction, value to make that work? Without acknowledging what do you bring on the table, without understanding what your partner bring on the table, and share that common goal so that we can drive things toward to the same direction. I think it sounds so basic and fundamental, but that's what I witnessed throughout the journey in this industry when it's come to partnership, right? Partnership and why it doesn't work and why it works.
I think that's such a great point. And I mean, as we've all seen, this is business. Everything is a struggle, right? That's another area to not really put a fine point on. There can be a struggle with forming partnerships and getting the right people to listen and get the right people in place for the right conversation. So I think that also aligns a lot with what we were just talking about in terms of DEI, that we need to be open to conversations. And Cindy, either you've frozen or I have. Okay, it looks like Cindy froze for a second. And she's back. So I do think, there is that necessity to be open to conversations. And sometimes that's within your own team, sometimes that's with potential partners. But there's an importance on a personal and an organizational level of recognizing you can't do everything yourself. You don't need to always reinvent the wheel. You don't need to do 100% yourself. There are brilliant people in this world and in this industry. Leverage them, build your network, have the conversation. Sometimes they'll be hard, but finding the right talent, finding the right people to have these conversations with can help you overcome that struggle, and connecting on more of a personal level and identifying those shared visions, values, and goals. We wouldn't have been able to create the scope together if we didn't have a shared vision and common roadmap. And that that was a huge partnership. It wasn't just our two teams, Cindy. We had to work with companies across several languages, across several borders, with a reseller, with a manufacturing service provider, and with the company ideating this project in the first place, as well as look then at market acceptance. It's a
Mhm.
consumer grade product that I, as an individual, could bring into my home. I need to be comfortable on a human personal level to do that. And so getting these value alignments and these big conversations together is the only way to actually progress and make a difference.
And
We do.
remember, right? Remember one thing when it's come to 3D printing, additive manufacturing, the CAGR, the growth, we talk about 20 to 24% in the next 5, 6 years. It requires intensive collaboration, right? That we need to drive things forward to get that adoption, right? So that we can get away from traditional manufacturing to additive manufacturing. The cake was there, the cake is here. We just need to go and get it.
Exactly. And we do have just a few more minutes left. If anyone has additional comments or questions, please let us know. I'm also dropping into the chat right now a link because Cindy and I have the pleasure of being on a panel together for women in 3D printing at Rapid. The panel is happening 2 weeks from yesterday. So, day one of Rapid, May 17th. We are speaking on behalf of our companies and our own experiences on a Women in 3D Printing partner panel about what the future of additive manufacturing looks like. And we talked about what that intersection traditionally looks like, but what will it look like next year? What will it look like in 5 years or 10? And we talk a lot about what the industry will look like, what the technology will look like. But one of the things that matters most is the people who are doing it. The industry isn't just equipment, it's not just materials, it's not just software. It's all of those things. But more importantly, it's the people behind them. Who's operating the equipment? Who's designing it? Who's designing the product? Who's selling it? Who's buying it? What does that future look like? And so Cindy and I will be speaking on this panel, What Does the Future of AM Look Like? Will be moderated by Christina Perla, the CEO and co-founder of MakeLab. S.J. Jones from Velo3D now will be speaking with us, as will Lisa Block from Hybrid Manufacturing Technologies. And Lisa is also my new co-chair for DEI at Women in 3D Printing. So between the five of us, I think we're going to have an incredibly compelling conversation. We invite you all to join if you'll be in Detroit with us, as well as to follow up with additional conversations in person. I know I can't wait to network again in person at Rapid Plus TCT, and I'm bringing my fancy new antibodies. So hopefully we'll all be staying healthy after this one. Um, We'll be speaking from Nexa3D on a few other topics as well throughout the event. Kristen Mulherin and I will be speaking on why 3D printing companies should invest in DEI today. That talk is Thursday morning. We'll also be taking part in a panel presentation after that with some other speakers touching on DEI topics. And Avi Reichenthal, our co-founder, chairman, and CEO, will be speaking on sustainability in 3D printing and why that's so vital. He'll be speaking Wednesday morning at Rapid. Nexa3D will also be at the AMGTA Summit on the Monday before Rapid. So I look forward to seeing other people there. Lisa, good to see you in the chat. Can't wait to see you there and to share the stage with you at Rapid. So Cindy, do you have any other final thoughts or what else people should know about why these relationships need to go beyond technical alignment?
Yeah, so going back to the key takeaway that I'd like to encourage all of us to really have that reflection when it's come to partnership, when it's come to collaboration. Is it just because it's a technical fit? Is it just because the business fits? Look beyond that. If you really want to have sustainable growth, 5 year, 10 years, the partnership means sharing beyond technical and technology, looking around about common ground on the core value that both company can share, like a sustainability, diversity, and that is going to be some golden key for all the partnership to be really successful in the sustainable way.
Absolutely. Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat with me today. I can't wait to share a stage with you again at Rapid Plus TCT. And of course, to keep working together because we're lucky enough to get to do that on a frequent basis. So,
And
Cindy, thank
likewise,
you.
Sarah, thank you for opportunity. It's been such a pleasure always with you and Nexa 3D team. Can't wait for TCT and talk on the panel of women in 3D printing as well.
It will be great. And Nexa3D will also be doing some live streams from our booth. So come see us at booth 1501 throughout the event. And, maybe catch some of our live streams, catch our teams there on the LSPC and QLS sides. We really look forward to catching up in person in Detroit, as well as, of course, to connecting online at any time. So reach out to Cindy, reach out to me at any point. We're both very easy to find on LinkedIn. You can see how our names are spelled here. Find us, connect. Can't wait to connect soon. And thank you again, Cindy. So for
Thank
Nexa3D,
you.
I'm Sarah Goehrke. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be in touch.